Such a long day today. I can't wait to chill with a movie this afternoon. What's up with you? You've been off all day.
Well, this morning I got a call from Carmen. She's not coming to school anymore.
You know, she's not the first one. Her kind doesn't like school much.
Yeah, so unlike your kind.
You're right about her not being the only one though. It's such a pity that so many Roma people drop out of school and there are entire communities living in poor conditions.
You shouldn't be surprised at this. The Roma are too lazy to work. That's why they're living in poverty.
Oh, shut up with that nonsense. Didn't you know that they were slaves for 500 years? For 500 years they were not considered people like us, they were considered property and were owned by the state, by boyards and even by monasteries. Imagine that!
Yeah, I remember learning something about that in middle school. Wasn't ending slavery one of the main points of the program of the revolution of 1848?
Yeah, true that.
So, if the Roma were freed from slavery more than 150 years ago, why do so many of them still live in poverty? They had plenty of time to catch up, don't you agree?
Well, the 1848 Revolution Programme and then the subsequent legislation that was passed in 1856 said just that the Roma should be freed from slavery and that the peasants should own land. There was no support policy for them to have the same rights as everyone else for decades to come. Not to mention that the boyards who had slaves received money in compensation when slavery was abolished, but the Roma themselves, who had been exploited for centuries, received nothing.
Then, during World War II, they were deported to Transnistria and left to die.
Now you're mixing things up. Jews were the ones persecuted during World War II, not Roma.
Well, yeah, Jews were the main target of the Nazi regimes and their collaborators, but other groups were persecuted as well, like Roma, LGBT, people with disabilities, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, Roma were targeted by the Antonescu regime. This is not something made up. There are so many testimonies from the survivors. My parents have a book and I read one testimony from there. It is unbelievable that people could be treated this way and murdered just because they were considered different. This is the book.
Samudari pen. Gives me shivers. You know that theater play, Kalitrash? It's exactly about this topic. Wanna see the trailer?
Wow, you got all worked up all of a sudden. It doesn't really matter anyway, forget it.
Come on, don't get all defensive on us. The thing is, you've got to admit that you can't solve a problem that has existed for centuries overnight in just a few years. The first national strategy to improve the situation of the Roma in Romania was adopted in, 2001. From a historical point of view, that's like yesterday.
2001? Nah, I don't buy that.
Dude, it's true, I'll send you the link.
But even so, the strategy acknowledges the state's responsibility to ensure equal rights for Roma, but this was only on paper. In reality, concrete activities started to be carried out much later, especially after 2010. I am volunteering at this NGO and they asked me to do some research for a project.
And let's be honest, you know that most people even today think that there is something wrong with the Roma, that they are somehow inferior. Can you imagine how hard it must be to grow up thinking that there is something wrong with you, that no matter what you do, you cannot rise to the level of the others? Can you imagine how hard it must be for Roma people to get a job when everybody wants to avoid them?
Well, I admit I haven't thought about all this before. My dad always says that poor Roma are lazy Roma. I just thought it made sense. I guess it's easy to look at it from the outside and judge, especially when you don't know how complex reality is. I gotta tell my dad. Did you send me the link?
Well, let's call Carmen and say hello. The boss shall be here soon.